I'm just back from a week of diving in the Grand Caymans. We did 17 dives over the course of the week. I thought I would do a quick run through of the dive gear that I took down, what was useful, what I didn't end up using, and maybe there's some must-have items that you would take if you were going on a trip like that. You can add them in the comments below. Hi, I'm Rob Scu, and I've worked for over 45 years as a still photographer, working with clients like Major League Baseball and the NFL. Now I've switched to shooting underwater video for other people's nature shows, and I've had a bit of success getting stuff used by the National Geographic Channel and the Disney Channel. Maybe some of these techniques will be useful to you and your underwater work, or show you what not to do. So let's dive right in. I want to start with the most important consideration you're going to have if you're diving in the Caymans. What wetsuit do you take? So this is my Henderson 3mm. I used a 3mm and I was quite comfortable. We did 17 dives over the course of the week. Some people were in a 5mm. I think they started off a little warm. You could see they had the zippers undone or they were letting some water in. A 5mm worked fine. The 3mm was perfect. I saw people in shorties. They seemed to be warm enough. And a lot of people just with a rash guard on. So I did a couple of dives with no wetsuit, just with a rash guard on. They were fine. It was a day where I did 2 dives. I think if I was doing 4 dives on that day, I might have been chilly by the 4th dive. So I took a 3mm. It was perfect. You'll have to decide if you've got a 5mm, maybe you just take the 5mm, but you know, the 3mm seemed to work fine. The deepest I went was 102 feet, and the water temperature from the top to the bottom was 84 degrees. So what do you dive with in 84 degree water? That's the wetsuit that you're going to need to bring, or no wetsuit at all. None of the guides really had wetsuits on. Now, when I dive, usually, even in the Caribbean, I do wear a hood. And I wore this on the first dive, and I never wore it again. It was warm enough without it. But so I did take it, didn't really use it. You can leave that at home. Gloves. I took gloves. Don't take gloves. Don't take gloves. You can't use gloves. They're not allowed. They're not legal. You can't use them on any other dives. So don't even take them. Leave the gloves at home. Now between the hood and the gloves, I saved a pound on my luggage, which my luggage is always close to being at the limit. Now I do get ear problems, so I bring a toque. It's warm outside, but I wear a toque that covers my ears. Particularly useful on a boat when you're zooming back after the dive. There's water in your ears, and that's kind of when I'm vulnerable. So I wear a toque. That was worthwhile bringing. I wear one of these buff things on my neck because I'm a Canadian and I'm white, so super white skinned that I'll get burned right away. So I do wear one of these buffs on my neck, and I do wear these kind of scuba socks that are, you know, a nice design, and they just allow you to slip into the wetsuit easier. So if you have them, use them. These are the scuba socks. So the wetsuit is the main consideration for what you're going to bring because that's dependent on the temperature. I went in December and 84 degree water. That was the wetsuit I used. Now for regulators, I use the Scubapro. First stage is the HK17. It's a great regulator. I have the 700 is the mouthpiece. I use this on a necklace as my backup, and I have the same unit as my main stage as well. When I dive up here, although certainly if you're having air problems, I would give you my regulator, but I generally dive with a pony bottle up at home, and I would just give you the pony bottle if you're having an air situation. But obviously I'm going to give you air off my regulator. Now, I would suggest instead of having gear hanging down and touching the reef, why don't you just clip this stuff to your BC? That way you won't have anything falling down, touching the reef. So that's the regulators. Hey, whatever you have, they'll work perfect, I'm sure. BC, I use a Scubapro. This is called the Nighthawk. It's more of a back inflator and has integrated weights. So you're going to need a BC. Whichever one you have, it'll be perfect. I use a Scubapro. I'm sure your mileage will vary. So you're going to bring whatever rigs you have, and you're going to bring whatever flotation device that you have. Now here's some other things that I brought. Maybe some were useful, some were not useful. So You're going to need a mask. Obviously, you're going to need a mask. Now, I would suggest that you bring a second mask in your pocket, maybe call it a backup mask, and just put it in one of your pockets. Take it diving with you in case something happens while you're diving. And I also bring a spare strap that fits on my primary mask. So a mask, a backup mask, and the strap. Not a bad idea. And to keep your mask from fogging, I bring, this is basically Johnson's Baby Shampoo diluted. But there was plenty on the boat. You don't need to bring your own, especially if it's going to break in your suitcase and get all over the place. So it's just Johnson's Baby, like No More Tears type of a shampoo. Although when you get it in your eyes, it still seems to stink. Anyways, there's plenty down there. Now, I brought a flotation device and a reel, took them on every dive, never used them. We didn't really do drift diving. We were mostly moored down the mooring line, up the mooring line, back to the boat. But you should probably be diving with one of these at all times anyway, so bring that along. You're going to want your dive computer, so that's a standard part of the kit, so you're going to certainly bring that along. This one tells you the temperature at depths, most of them do. Anyways, it was 84 degrees in the water at all times. And as I mentioned, the deepest we went was 102 feet. Snorkel, get one that you can fold up and put in your pocket maybe instead of it having it on your strap. Some people always dive with a snorkel, some people never dive with a snorkel, but it's fine. I didn't use it except when we went to Stingray City. So Stingray City has changed from what you might be expecting if you've been there in the past. Now it's on a sand shoal and you're only kind of like waist high water. No footwear allowed at all, no fins, no booties, nothing while you're there. And I use the snorkel there a lot because you could sort of stand and float in the water with the stingrays, but it's great to have a snorkel. So whether you dive with a snorkel or not, you're going to want to bring one for Stingray City. This is like a little pro type of thing. I never took it on any of the dives. This one's threaded, some are, some aren't. In theory, I could put my camera tripod thread there and stick it on something, but I never used it on this particular trip. Dive knife. Some people always bring their dive knife. If you're that diver, bring your dive knife. I'm not a dive knife guy, and I didn't take it even on the trip. But a lot of people are gonna use their dive knife. Now these little lights, this one is activated by water, and this one you kind of turn to activate it. And these would be for some night dives. So we did do night dives, and these kind of go on your tank just so that your partner or your buddy can see where you are. And I use the light and motion flashlight on my hand for the night dives. So I do use the torch on my hand, but I'm also shooting video and my video camera has light. So I've got more light than this, just this. Probably if I just had this, I'd want to have 2 lights, but like I've got 2 more lights on my video camera. So that's useful. That's light and motion. They're fantastic. A little dry bag. You've got to bring your dive cards. You've got to prove that you have certification. So keeps them dry. If you're using nitrox, you have to prove through your card that you're nitrox certified. This is the most important thing. It's kind of beat up. I started off with motion sickness. On our boats, people were getting motion sickness a lot. And at first 3 days, I was using a Canadian product called Gravol. This is with ginger and it's natural and it's kind of a gummy type thing. And it didn't work. It didn't work at all. And other people were using it and it didn't work. And then we started to buy this Bonin, not sure exactly. You could get it at the dive shop, and it's motion sickness that it was available there, different than the Gravol that we took from Canada. This was fantastic. Of the 6 divers who were getting sick a lot, there were 24 divers on the trip, and 6 divers were getting sick a lot, including me. When we switched to this, we were fine. You want to take one the night before and then in the morning and kind of keep it in your system, sort of like 2 a day. And it worked great for everyone except one diver still got sick on every dive. But this was a great product. It just changed the trip, really, to be honest. So if you get seasick, you're going to need this. And not everybody gets seasick, and not everybody gets seasick all the time. I mean, I get motion sickness washing the dishes, so, you know, I'm going to need this. All right, so let's just kind of wrap up with a few of the other things that you're going to need. I use a open spring-loaded fin. These are the Oceanic. They're fine. You need to wear a boot with them, so I have the Scubapro wetsuit boot. Now, a lot of divers on the trip were wearing a full foot. Maybe they're just wearing a slight sock or a neoprene sock. Honestly, if I had a good pair of full foot fins, I would have brought those instead. But anyways, you're going to need fins, and maybe you need a boot. And the other thing is a hat. So, I mean, it's sunny and hot, so you're going to want to wear a hat. We went with Ocean Frontiers. That was the dive group down there. That was the resort. The trip itself was with Float and Flag in Burlington, Canada. 28 people went down. I think there was 24 were divers, and a fantastic trip. They did a great job organizing it. If you want to go on your first ever trip, go with Float and Flag. They do a great job. If it's your 100th trip, go with Float and Flag. They do a great job. And Ocean Frontiers was the resort down there. Beautiful dive boats, great staff, great tanks. I use a big tank, so I use 100 aluminum down there because I'm going to run out of air quicker. They have every size from 50 to 100, din and yoke, and honestly, a lot of hundreds. And if you use specialty gas nitrox and you're certified for that, they've got full nitrox there. So they were a great dive operation, east end of Grand Cayman. Fantastic. And if you're looking for a group to join us at Float and Flag. They really put together a great trip. This was my second trip with them in the last year. Fantastic. So there's two items I forgot to mention. The bags that I used. So this is a net bag that I didn't get that much use out of. At Ocean Frontiers, your dive gear is left in a lockup down by the boat. They set it all up on the boat. This is a full service scenario. But I thought I would have to take dive gear from the boat to my room every day. So I brought this net bag so you could put the wet gear in. I didn't use it that, well, I used it every day because that's what I brought, but you could get away with a much smaller bag because you're really just bringing your dive computer and, you know, a couple of small things to the boat. Everything else is staying at the boat. The final thing is, what did I put all this in to fly down there? So I use a hockey bag. This is made by CCM. It's not actually a hockey bag, it's a referee bag. So maybe it would be good if you were an 8-year-old kid. My hockey gear would never fit in this bag, but it's a referee bag. So it's a small hockey bag with wheels, and I can put all of my gear in this, all my dive gear. And when you're in the Grand Caymans and the bags are coming off of the conveyor belt at the airport, they all kind of look the same. Except the hockey bags. I don't think there's a lot of hockey bags showing up in the Grand Caymans for some reason. So this is actually really useful. CCM makes it. It's a referee bag. You might have to special order it, you know, at your local retailer, but it's great. Now the one thing to watch with bags is how heavy are they empty? You only get 50 pounds, 23 kilos on the plane. You know, I've got bags that my cameras go in that are 14 pounds empty, and you could get a bigger bag and it's like 17 pounds empty. Now, they're using up a lot of your 50 pounds just with the bag itself. So this CCM referee bag has been fantastic, and I've used it a lot. It's got wheels, got a handle, seems to be tough enough, worked great. So that's what I took, that's what was useful, that's what wasn't useful for the dive gear. I'm sure your mileage will be different than mine because you've got different gear, but enjoy it and have a great dive.